Modern cinema has been on a downward trajectory for a long time now. In any given year, you will be hard-pressed to come up with at least 5 movies you could consider worth the time and money you put into them. This is despite the ever-increasing budgets of modern movies and the increasing quantity of movies made per year. I can complain about the state of modern cinema with the best of them, but at heart, I really am just a sucker for a good movie. A movie that has no hidden motives and sets out to either make you think, or laugh, or cry, or feel inspired to go out and make the world a better place. There is scant evidence to prove we will get much of such movies these days, but nonetheless, somewhere deep down in the depths of my shallow heart, hope springs eternal. And on that note, I, the conservative critic, take you back in time and bring you a retro movie review. If you think your life is hard or are wondering what you can do about the bad hand life has dealt you, then look no further than the uplifting and inspiring story of Benjamin Solomon Carson. As portrayed in the movie Gifted Hands, if you're not so inclined, you can sit and whine and moan about your lot in life, but that never got anyone anywhere, now did it?
Take notes, I'm not going to repeat myself.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But that's the exception that proves the rule. Anyway, what is this story that I am uncharacteristically praising all about? In short, it's about a young man who overcomes numerous obstacles throughout his life, including actual race-based discrimination, poverty, and a mean streak that would make even John McEnroe blush.
He's a bad dude.
This man overcame it all to rise to the peak of his profession in the medical field. Hard work, a concept that is foreign to many a mortal in this day and age, is the secret source to his success. That and an unshakable faith in the Almighty God.
Amazing.
Now, let's take a deep dive into this inspirational biopic. We meet a young Benjamin languishing at the bottom of his class. Like any normal kids, his classmates make fun of him for his poor grades. Young Benjamin punches one of the kids who was making fun of him. The punch was more effective because our young and still broken protagonist had a huge steel lock in his hand. This incident happens at a predominantly white school, and despite this altercation, young Benjamin isn't expelled. But this was 1961. Wasn't racism a thing back then?
Call me crazy, but I just don't see race.
Are you serious?
Moving on, young Benjamin's mother, Sonia Carson, discovers that young Benjamin is short-sighted and gets him a pair of spectacles, and presto, his grades start to improve. Despite their situation and circumstances, Sonia always told her boys they could be whatever they wanted to be in life. There must be something to it, because one of her sons turned out to be an aeronautical engineer and the other a world-renowned neurosurgeon. Could that be the secret to helping our children reach their full potential? Simply encouraging them?
You might be onto something.
Sonia Carson has some past trauma and issues she needs to deal with, which is understandable given she was married off at the age of 13 to a less than scrupulous man. Despite this, she has the good sense to go for counseling. In the 60s, mind you, counseling for an African American, that was progressive to say the very least.
Amazing.
After getting her mind right, Sonia goes to work cleaning the house of a wealthy man who is also a bibliophile. This book-learned gentleman teaches Sonia to read. Inspired by her well-read employer, Sonia changes the rules at home for her boys. Television is cut almost completely out, and they are to occupy themselves with homework and reading a couple of books per week and giving her a written report on each book. Again, I ask you, could it be that simple? The key to success is simply consistent, focused application?
No, you might be onto something.
One thing that can easily be taken for granted in this true life story is how compliant the boys were. For the most part anyway. What mama said, the boys did. If only kids today were born with a thing in their heads that told them that maybe, just maybe, the bigger humans who take care of them every single day just might know something they don't.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it indeed? Anyway, enough with the wishful thinking. Benjamin's book reading sees him continue to excel in school. Most of his teachers are happy for him until prize-giving day, when one white lady dresses down the rest of the class for being outdone by a boy of color coming from a single-parent family. That put a damper on the ceremony.
Yeah, that's not funny.
My bad. Anyway, Sonia and her boys moved to a more cultural neighborhood and thus a new school for the boys. But, like they say, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Because after overcoming the obstacle of being derided for his poor grades, young Benjamin now faces a new challenge, being bullied because of his outdated clothing. This, mind you, in a school where everyone is the same color as he is. Since they're all the same color, it's not racism. So what is it?
Good question. You are a good question.
At this time, our young Benjamin is still a hothead. He is hanging with the wrong crowd at school and is coerced into purchasing a pocket knife so he can fit in with his new crew. Around the same time, he gets into a heated argument with his mother and attacks her with a ball-peen hammer. He is spared from harming her by his older brother's intervention. Still in a rage, he gets into another fight at school with his delinquent friends. He stabs one of them with his newly acquired pocket knife. The blade breaks on the boy's belt buckle and doesn't cause any harm. Distraught by his action, young Benjamin runs home and prays to God for him to rid him of his destructive anger.
Help me.
Benjamin is now a young man at Yale on a scholarship. Enter Cuba Gooding Jr., who put in an impressive performance as the good doctor. He meets Candy, sweet name, his future wife, who helps him with his studies. As they say, behind every successful man is a great woman. In the inspirational case of Benjamin Carson, there were two. On the back of his good grades and steely determination, Benjamin is accepted at Johns Hopkins as a neurosurgeon intern. Again, he is faced with bigotry. Thankfully, he has put his knife-wielding days behind him. Nonetheless, he remains resolute in his determination to succeed. Fate intervenes and all the attending surgeons are away at some conference. A patient requiring emergency surgery is rushed in. Benjamin, despite not having the authority to operate, goes ahead and acts to save the patient's life. Much to his surprise, Benjamin is congratulated by his superiors for his decisive action. Fast forward a few short years, and Benjamin is now the chief of pediatric neurosurgery. At 33 years of age, he was the youngest ever in the history of the United States at that time. He successfully performed some complicated operation he has never performed before on a young girl. This raises his profile to that of the world's leading neurosurgeon.
He's a bad dude.
All this has been building up to his crowning moment, the world's first ever successful separation of conjoined twins. In the build-up to that, his wife miscarries. The average man would not be criticized for taking some time off, but not our resolute hero. With his wife's blessing, he goes about his business of saving lives. Don't get me wrong, the weight of all these things does get to him, but he turns to God for strength and comfort as he was raised to do. Of course, the 22-hour-long operation was a success because we all know of Benjamin Solomon Carson. And if you don't, then Google him. I demand it. He is one of the few people alive today whose life story is worth getting acquainted with. What I love about this story is that from the onset, our hero didn't have a shot. The deck was stacked heavily against him. Raised by a single, young, uneducated mother at a time in our history when the amount of melanin he had in his skin didn't do him any favors. Despite all this, Benjamin Solomon Carson rises out of the mire he was born in and conquers the world. His story is a testament to where hard work and faith in God can take you.
You said it right there.
And now for the fun part.
How does the jury find?
I find this movie to be downright brilliant and give it my stamp of approval.
Hey! Give that man a bells.
And I'd take it if I wasn't a teetotaler. Gifted Hands gets 4 well-deserved stars. That's all for now. Until next time.
I'll be back.